if someone has never heard of Jesus or the Catholic Church, are they automatically condemned? Or is God's mercy greater than we realize? Today we're exploring one of the most controversial teachings in Catholic history. No salvation outside the Church. And the answer might not be what you expect. Hi, I'm Dr. Damian of the Sacramental Life. The Catholic Church has always taught that Jesus Christ is the sole mediator between God and man. As the Church he established, she is the ordinary means of salvation for all people. But what does it mean when the Church proclaims Extra Ecclesiam Nulla Salus? No salvation outside the Church? Some interpret this as an exclusionary statement, believing it means only baptized Catholics can be saved. Others dismiss it as an outdated or harsh teaching, but the truth lies in understanding the full theological, historical, and scriptural context. In this video, we will explore the meaning of this doctrine, the role of invincible ignorance, and how God's justice and mercy work together in his plan for salvation. The phrase Extra Ecclesiam Nulla Salus has deep roots in church tradition. It was famously articulated by early church fathers, such as Saint Cyprian of Carthage, who wrote, "No one can have God as Father who does not have the Church as Mother." His words emphasize that Christ founded one church as the Ark of Salvation, much like Noah's Ark was the refuge during the Great Flood. Over the centuries, this teaching was reiterated by councils and popes, including Pope Boniface VIII in Unum Sanctum, 1302, where he stated that submission to the Roman pontiff is necessary for salvation. However, this teaching must be properly understood. It does not mean that every non-Catholic is automatically condemned, but rather that salvation comes through the Church, even for those who may not visibly belong to her. The Church recognizes that not everyone has equal access to the gospel. Some are born into circumstances where they never hear the name of Christ, while others grow up in environments that distort the truth of Catholicism. For these individuals, the Church teaches the principle of invincible ignorance. This means that if someone is ignorant of the Catholic faith through no fault of their own, they are not culpable for failing to enter the Church. However, this does not mean ignorance is an alternative path to salvation. The person must still respond to God's grace as best as they can according to their knowledge and conscience. Pope Pius IX clarified this in Quanto Conficiamur Morore, stating, "God, in his supreme goodness and clemency, by no means allows anyone to be punished with eternal torment who has not had the guilt of voluntary transgression." This means that those who sincerely seek God and strive to follow the moral law written on their hearts may by God's mercy be saved. However, this should not lead to complacency. Invincible ignorance does not guarantee salvation, but rather highlights God's justice and mercy in dealing with souls according to what they have been given. If someone knowingly rejects the Church and its teachings despite understanding their truth, they cannot claim invincible ignorance. This is why evangelization remains a duty for Catholics, to bring as many people as possible into the fullness of truth. Baptism of desire applies to those who, before death, explicitly or implicitly desire to follow God's will and seek the truth. For example, a catechumen who dies before receiving baptism may still be saved by their sincere intention to enter the Church. Baptism of blood applies to those who die for Christ before they can receive baptism, such as martyrs in the early Church. The Church does not claim to know precisely how God works in every case, but she trusts that his mercy extends to those who, without fault of their own, did not receive the sacraments. As Vatican II's Lumen Gentium affirms, those who, through no fault of their own, do not know the gospel of Christ and his Church, but who nevertheless seek God with a sincere heart and, moved by grace, strive to do his will as known through the dictates of conscience, may achieve eternal salvation. Understanding Extra Ecclesiam Nulla Salus should not lead us to a sense of exclusion or despair for non-Catholics. Instead, it should inspire us to evangelize with love. If the Church is the ordinary means of salvation, then sharing the faith is an act of charity. Christ calls us to bring his truth to the world, not to condemn, but to invite. St. Paul emphasizes this in Romans 10 when he writes, "How can they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone to preach?" If we truly believe in the Church's role in salvation, We must take evangelization seriously. At the same time, we trust in God's mercy. While the Church provides the surest path to salvation, God is not bound by the sacraments in the way we are. His justice is perfect, and His mercy extends even beyond what we can see. This is why we pray for the conversion of souls and trust that God, in His infinite wisdom, calls all people to Himself in ways that may be beyond our understanding. The question is not whether others might be saved outside the visible church, but rather whether we are doing our part to bring them into full communion with Christ. So, is there salvation outside the Catholic Church? The answer is nuanced. The Church remains the ordinary means of salvation, but God's mercy is greater than human limitations. This should lead us to gratitude for the gift of faith and a renewed zeal for sharing it with the world. If this video helped deepen your understanding, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let's continue to explore the beauty of Catholic teaching together. See you next time on The Sacramental Life.